Hello guys, and gamers, and welcome back to another video. This time we are going to be talking about Pokemon, and more specifically, Pokemon fusions. Is that an actual mechanic Game Freak could implement to a Pokemon game? Well, yes, because it has already happened to a degree. We have already Pokemon like Kyurem that can fuse with Reshiram and Zekrom. Then we also have Necrozma, which can, in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, fuse with both Solgaleo and Lunala. And then finally, in the Sword and Shield DLC, Crown Tundra, we got the Pokemon Calyrex with the big noggin and everything. And he technically can also fuse with Spectria and Glastria. Looking like he's just writing them. I wouldn't say it counts as a fusion really, but the game counts them as one Pokemon, so I guess it's a fusion. But could this happen in a bigger scale? We have seen loads of fan games and even indie games, just like Cassette Beasts, include fusion as a major mechanic in those games. And could Pokemon do this? Could they give us a game where one of the new game mechanics, kind of like Mega Evolution, Z-Moves, or Terrestrialization, instead we have Pokemon fusing together? And I don't actually see this as a big possibility for Game Freak to actually implement. And for the basic reason is that it would just be way too much work. We already have over 1,000 Pokemon with more on the way, and just 1,000 times 1,000 is like 100 million billion. And that's how many new forms you would have to create. It's just not feasible for basically anyone to do. Even fan games like the Pokemon Infinite Fusion, it doesn't have properly made fusions for everything just yet. For a good chunk of Pokemon, yes, but not all of them. And for Game Freak to make that kind of game with other parts included, like region, character, telling a story, graphics, music, blah blah blah, everything, and then having to program and design 100 million billion new forms, that's just not feasible. Not at all. Now you're probably thinking, okay, what if they don't make fusions for every Pokemon out there? What if they just make a smaller game like Pokemon Legends Arceus, which had about 250 Pokemon in itself? And yeah, that is a possibility, a lot of the modern games don't have all Pokemon included, and that can be a good thing, which can lead to more experimentation. Say if they make a remake of the Johto games, having only 100 Pokemon in there, with nothing else, no other evolutions or anything else, and still 100 Pokemon times 100 Pokemon, that would still require, 10,000 new sprites, which, is a lot. And it wouldn't even be sprites, would it? It would be 3D models. Infinite Fusion and Cassette Beasts, which is the indie game, both use 2D pixel sprites, which take a while to do, but at the same time are way less complex than making, 3D models. That said, even if they would do 3D models for 10,000 new Pokemon that they would have to design themselves, still, I think it would completely destroy the metagame. Definitely would not do a multiplayer mode, kind of like in Legends Arceus where they didn't have any. So I guess in that way, if you remove a lot of features and have less and less Pokemon in that game, it could work. If they do 2D sprites, only like 100 Pokemon in the decks, and no online multiplayer, I guess that could work. But still, removing those from a Pokemon game unlikely and still would create a lot of work for this gimmick. But could there be another way they could, go around this issue of having to make new forms for all Pokemon? And yeah, probably. One idea I had is just instead of fusion in a proper way of two Pokemon doing the fusion dance and becoming go-getter, instead we would have something more like stands from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, or just, possession in a way. What this would mean that instead of two Pokemon actually fusing together, becoming one creature, another Pokemon could possess the body of the other one, being able to use both moves of the original possessor and the possessed Pokemon, having a moveset of like 8 moves or something, or however Game Freak wants to balance it out. Maybe the stats change, maybe the typing changes a bit. I'm not sure how they would go about it. The only weird thing here is that most modern gimmicks in Pokemon, they are decided in the battle itself. Some gimmicks, like the early ones, Mega Evolution and Z moves, were kind of decided before the battle began because they were reliant on items such as like Mega Keystones and, the Z crystals. But modern mechanics like the new Terra Crystal mechanic and the Gigantamaxing in Sword and Shield, they are decided within the battle itself, and I prefer it that way because it gives the player more strategy. And what I mean by decided within the battle itself is that you can Gigantamax or Terastallize any Pokemon in your party, and you can do that at any moment, while Megastones, you would have to give one Pokemon a Megastone, and only that Pokemon was capable of Mega Evolving. Now, if we're going to go with the fusion mechanic here, I would prefer it to be something that can be decided in the battle itself as well. Because if we're going to go with the Mega routes, then two Pokemon would need to have a similar held item, and only those two Pokemon could fuse together. Another example of this could be that you could fuse them before the battle, which is something already done in the Pokemon games with the pre-existing fusion Pokemon such as Kyurem and Necrozma. But I think it would be more fun for Pokemon if we could only fuse this in the battle itself. Now, how could this work? And especially I started wondering this because in mainline Pokemon games, when you go through the game for the first time, it's mainly just single battles. In double battles, it would make more sense when you have two Pokemon on the field. They would do a fusion thing, and then you would have one Pokemon on the field against two, which could be really fun. I think that's how Cassette Beasts does it. That is a Pokemon-like indie game, which also has the fusion mechanic in itself, which is really cool. But most Pokemon battles are single battles when you go through a game. So would you then be able to pick a Pokemon from your party and kind of fuse or possess that Pokemon that is your lead now with another Pokemon? It would be better if we could do it in battle and all Pokemon within your party could fuse with each other at any moment, because that would just make the battles more exciting and less predictable what could happen. Now, if you enjoyed this little video, please remember to like and subscribe. I have nothing else to say here, so I will just see you guys next time. Bye bye.